and welcome back to another episode of Wookiee's Oldies but Goodies reviews. This week, I'm reviewing a game that many, including myself, would consider to be a modern-day classic, and that is Assassin's Creed Revelations. So, I guess the first thing that I would want to really talk about would be the opening cutscene. The opening cutscene involving Ezio escaping from the Templars. This cutscene is absolutely one of, if not the main reason, I fell in love with the game. Not only is it a great scene, but it hooks you in and pulls you in, making you think Ezio might be done for, or at the very least wondering how he's going to escape. The detail is what got me most about this scene. I remember being 19, booting the game up for the first time, and genuinely thinking that these were real people. Which, I thought they were real people in the scene. And you know what? I still felt that way when I watched it again, even all these years later. That scene is still incredible and kicks so much ass. It's clear that they spent a lot of time, money, effort, love, and care on that one scene, and it shows. In my mind, especially among Assassin's Creed fans, this scene will live on and continue to be awesome for years to come. Assassin's Creed Revelations is the fourth game in the AC series, despite that it's not called AC4 because Ubisoft is weird, I guess. As you may have guessed by my last statement, this game was published by Ubisoft and oddly enough was developed specifically for their Montreal studio. Or specifically by their Montreal studio, my bad. And it was released on November 15th, all the way back in 2011. Interesting side note, this game came out on my birthday, and as far as I can remember was the first game to come out on my birthday, which just got me hyped for this game even more than I already was. Like most games, this one had quite an interesting development cycle / story behind it. Assassin's Creed Revelations was initially conceived as a Nintendo 3DS game called Assassin's Creed Lost Legacy, about Ezio traveling east to the assassin's former city of Masaif, where he would have discovered the origins of the Assassin Order. It was first announced during Nintendo's E3 2010 press conference. It was quietly cancelled, and its main concept was developed into Assassin's Creed Revelations. From there, the game had what I would consider to be a pretty normal development cycle, with nothing really interesting to say other than the game seems to be a pretty big hit with fans and critics, and that the voice actor for Desmond Miles, Nolan North, a very familiar person within the gaming voice acting community, was pushing very hard for Ubisoft to adapt motion capture methods similar to those of Naughty Dog's Uncharted series. Speaking in an interview, North admitted there's a disconnect in the Ubisoft game's current setup, which has voice actors provide voice and facial animation separately from body motion capture, which is recorded by different actors. I wish it wasn't done separately, North said. Don't get me wrong, the mocap actors do a great job, but there will always be somewhat of a disconnect when it's done this way. After my experience on the Uncharted franchise, where the actors do both performance and voice, I can honestly say there's absolutely a difference. So I'll answer two questions or topics at the same time, as I feel they both have the same explanation. Why this game, and what is my personal connection with this game? There are three answers for this one, actually. The first is, of course, as mentioned earlier, this game originally came out on my birthday all the way back in 2011. So imagine the excitement little 19-year-old Wookiee felt when this game came out. It was pretty freaking cool. And it was even cooler 5 years later when this game re-released again on November 15th as part of the Ezio collection. The next answer is that, quite simply, this is my favorite Assassin's Creed game. My love for Assassin's Creed started with AC2, and Brotherhood was fine enough, but me being a fan of the AC series was fully cemented when I got my hands on this game. I just fell in love with it, plain and simple. The final thing I wanted to talk about is how this game got me through some pretty tough times in my life. I was 19, I wasn't working, I didn't have many friends at the time, and the ones I did have were always busy. So I was spending a lot of time at my parents' house where I lived and just basically being sad, and looking back on it now, probably dealing with some depression. And this is real stuff, guys, I'm being honest here. And when I found out that this game was getting released on my birthday, it made me feel special. Even though I knew it wasn't true, it made me feel like Ubisoft was giving me a birthday present. On my actual birthday. On my birthday, I received this game as a birthday gift from my father, and it became my escape. I was able to lose myself in this amazing fantasy world and focus on the life of Ezio and the amazing end to his story instead of on my own life. Everything eventually, of course, got better in my life. I now have friends, family, and both within the Tavern. But at a time when I needed it most, and for an all too short few weeks, this game was there for me. Does this game hold up to today's standards? Short, sweet, and simple answer, yes. Yes, it absolutely does. Even still, all these years later, the graphics impress me. Like I said, especially with the cutscenes. But even just the basic gameplay graphics, yeah, they're not perfect, but you know what? No graphics are ever perfect. Even The Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption 2, like two of the best examples of like amazing graphics for today, have their problems. The people who worked on this game did a tremendous job, and they made sure that this game would be remembered for years and years and will last years and years more. So, as many of you might, keyword might have guessed, Assassin's Creed Revelations is indeed part of a series, the Assassin's Creed series. A long-standing series, and in my opinion, Ubisoft's flagship series, that continues to have games made and be very popular with fans to this day. In terms of how this game stacks up and compares to other games in the series, I would say despite being a bit older, it can easily go toe-to-toe with even the most modern of Assassin's Creed games, due to great graphics and gameplay that especially for the time was very unique, as well as an excellent story that served as a fantastic ending to EZIO'S story. And even though it was a happy ending for Ezio, I still felt a little sad that the story of my favorite Assassin's Creed character was over. The story is epic as fuck, and is a continuation of the story for all three of the major characters for the series: Desmond, Ezio, and Altair. Though Desmond is in a coma the whole time, Ezio gets to run around and meet a butt ton of historical figures, including Prince Suleiman, a man who would go on to become one of the Ottoman Empire's greatest sultans. Anyway, a basic plot is this: due to the events of Brotherhood, Desmond is stuck in the Animus and is in a coma. He needs to essentially reassemble his memory to escape, and his sections of the game where he's traversing through a strange digital island/world are super trippy, but also super fun, and a welcome sidetrack from all the running around as Ezio. It kind of reminds me of Giratina's world in Pokemon Platinum. Next, let's talk about Ezio's portion of the story. After narrowly escaping from the Templars, he discovers that there are 5 disc keys required to unlock the library of Altair. He learns that all of them are hidden in Constantinople, the capital of the Ottoman Empire, and off he goes. He meets up with the Turkish assassins, meets a girl, falls in love with her, and with a lot of adventure, work, and Templar blood, he eventually discovers all the keys, each one of which allows him to view the life of Altair after the events of the first AC game. After having to rescue his kidnapped love, Ezio uses the keys to unlock Altair's library, but instead of finding books, he finds Altair's skeleton, as well as a 6th key, which is used to reveal the Apple of Eden. He leaves the apple in the library, saying he has seen enough for one life. He then, in a mind-blowing fourth wall-breaking moment, begins talking directly to Desmond. Ezio doesn't seem to understand who Desmond is or where he is, but he knows that he himself is a conduit, a messenger for Desmond, if you will. He then discards his weapons, signifying his retirement from the assassins, and he wishes Desmond good fortune on his journey to unlock the secrets that he and Altair worked so hard to uncover. Desmond is then approached by Jupiter, a member of the first civilization. He tells him how they tried to save their world, but none of the methods worked, and solar flares wiped them out, and warns him of a second solar flare on its way, and the location of a vault in New York. Desmond then awakens from his coma and tells everyone, "I know what we have to do," thus setting up Assassin's Creed 3. Another interesting part about this game is that although it is brief, there is a story for the game's multiplayer. The multiplayer aspect has its own plot from the Templar perspective. After impressing Warren Vidic in the first stage of Abstergo's Animus training program, the players selected to participate in the second stage of the program for further training. Upon being promoted to the rank of Master Templar, the player is allowed into the inner sanctum of the Templar Order and is implanted with a tracker to ensure his or her trustworthiness. After reaching level 50, the player is dubbed an active agent and assigned the task of retrieving the current mentor of the Assassin Order, William Miles. The controls are fluent as hell. It feels smooth and crisp, and you're easily able to traverse the world as Ezio with little to no problem. They make use out of the triggers, as it not only allows you to go from walking to running, but when you press on the trigger, it changes what the other buttons do, giving you more options without having to cram them all awkwardly on the controller. So the graphics are great, as I've already stated. So forgive me if this statement feels a little redundant, but I want to go a little bit more in-depth with the graphics. While not the same quality as the opening, the other cutscenes are still fantastic and hold up very well. The graphics of the actual gameplay, again, I feel are very good. They are, at least in my opinion, on par with Black Flag, another fan favorite of the series, and I would say only a few notches lower than the most modern of Assassin's Creed games. This is not to knock off or make fun of modern entries to the series, however. It's more of a compliment to this game and how much effort was put into it, that it still holds up years later. The game is, of course, open world, like all the other Assassin's Creed games, with the game taking place in, as previously expressed, Constantinople. I suggest everyone takes full advantage of it and explore this beautifully crafted Middle Eastern world. One of the newest additions to the gameplay is an item that just so happens to also be my favorite AC item of all time, the fucking hook blade. This thing serves as a replacement for the traditional dual hidden blades, but I think the trade-off is well worth it. This thing not only looks cool as hell, with it being an actual curved blade that still somehow is very effective at stabbing, but also lets you access zip lines located all over the city that speed up your navigation big time. Also added and expanded are seizing districts of the city from the Templars. While capturing a district is very similar to Brotherhood, the Templars will send reinforcements to recapture districts, which Ezio must defend using a tower defense minigame called Den Defense, when he controls a group of assassins from rooftops against several waves of Templar soldiers and siege equipment. Similar to Brotherhood, initiates can be sent on missions to other regions, eventually wresting control from the Templars, and then using the city to produce a stream of income and new assassin recruits. Finally, let's not forget to mention the pure awesomeness that is getting to play as both Ezio and Altair in one game. You don't get to choose when you play as Altair, and admittedly those sections could be a bit longer, but they are excellent nonetheless. Multiplayer also makes a return in Revelations with new characters and locations. It allows players to customize their characters. As players level up, they gain access to more information about the Abstergo company, all of which is some pretty interesting info. New multiplayer modes are added to the already existing modes, including story-oriented quests, as well as much requested Capture the Flag mode. Some multiplayer maps are based in the island of Rhodes. Among the new additions is a new multiplayer mode, Deathmatch, which differs from the previous multiplayer gameplay in that there is no compass pointing toward your assigned target. Rather, there's a box in the top right corner of the screen where your current target is displayed, which glows blue when you enter in the line of sight of your target. There's also Simple Deathmatch, which also removes the abilities and perks from the players. The audio, all of the audio is really well done. The music is varied from the classical at the beginning to the weird techno background music on Desmond's Island. It sounds expertly done. The voice acting is once again spot on, especially for the actor who plays Ezio, but even the supporting cast still clearly gives it their all and does a tremendous job. The sound effects, all of them are great. I especially love the sounds of when swords are drawn from their sheaths or when they clash. It gives me chills, bro. It seriously does. Alright, so this next section is just going to be like some basic remarks / like funny or interesting things that I encountered while playing the game. I would like to note how they give you a brief yet detailed overview of what happened in the 3 previous games, so it's nice, especially for someone like me who hasn't played any of the Assassin's Creed games in a while. I enjoyed the character of Subject 16, also known by his real name of Clay. He had the smarmy, smart-ass personality going on that I personally loved to death. He reminded me a lot of Baird from the Gears of War series, and I honestly wanted to keep playing this game just to see more of this character. Is there any Ubisoft office that didn't work on this game? They must have mentioned 10 different Ubisoft offices in the opening credits. I just thought that was funny that they literally, like, go through all of them, like, 1 or 2 of them, like, I've never even heard of that city before. It was weird. When I jumped off the building at the beginning of the game, like, I completely was not paying attention. I had borderline, like, spaced out, so I didn't see the part where it said use Ezio's parachute to catch. Like, I was expected, like, to catch the bad guys, I was expecting just a regular jump. So it startled me a little bit when the parachute like bursted open, like, oh god. Let's see, when you sprint on a wall, Ezio totally does the Naruto run. So, just saying, I thought that was pretty funny. Let's see, it's fun to shoot a bunch of Templars with the poison dart and watch them all act like hardcore dancers at a local metal show. It really is. It forms like basically a mosh pit. They're all flailing their arms and weapons around and smacking each other. It's hilarious. Let's see, I don't know if this was just because it was only the first part of the game, but I found the AI could be a little dumb. Don't get me wrong, when they noticed you, they noticed you. But if you were, say, just outside of their range, you could launch projectiles at them all day long. and they just keep standing there. I don't understand why even the most desperate of fools would work for the first boss guy that you kill. Like, he kills almost as many of his men as you do. He throws at least 3 of them off of carts to their death, and one guy he even tosses off a tower to try and take Ezio out. I'm not exaggerating, he does this. One guy gets run over by a cart, and another guy plows through this, like, freaking, like, wooden plank thing that Ezio is climbing up, like, and he just falls to his death off of a tower. Like, this dude is insane. I also enjoyed the Yusuf character. He has that charming rogue/scoundrel thing going on, not to mention the fact that he's the one who gives you the hook blade, so that's just another reason to like him. So my final thoughts on this game are, as you can probably guess from the rest of this review, positive. Everything still holds up incredibly well despite the age of the game. I know 8 years doesn't seem like a lot, but keep in mind that since then we've gone through almost 2 console generations with the release of the Xbox One and the impending release of the Series X. That being said, I still stand by my statement that this game kicks ass. It might not be on the exact same level as some more modern games, but in my opinion, it's not that far behind. It's still a banger of a game with a kick-ass and emotional story that is still totally worth playing today. Pick this one up at your earliest convenience. And I will see you guys next time on the next episode of Wookiee's Oldies but Goodies. Love, Wookiee.